this week's drive, we survive a near miss, take some flying lessons, find a whole range of special vehicles, and see Malaysia's bid for glory. All this and more in this week's Drive. NASCAR came to the high-banked oval of the superfast Talladega Raceway in Alabama, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. is a double-past winner. NASCAR experimented with rules for this race, cutting fuel capacity for each car from 22 gallons to 12.5, in an effort to force more pit stops and spread out the field, hoping to avoid multi-car shunts. There were no caution flags in the race, just the third time that's happened. On the 36th lap, Earnhardt Jr. pits for right-side tyres and fuel. His crew made efficient pit stops all day long. On lap 123, race leader Jeff Gordon, in the rainbow-coloured number 24, is passed by Robbie Gordon. The two are not related. Things got worse for Jeff, a former NASCAR champion, when he pitted 4 laps later. The crew lifts the bonnet, never a good sign, and white smoke signals the end of his race. The retirement doesn't help Gordon, who was 4th in the standings. Earnhardt led 56 of the 188 laps for his 7th career win. Following his top 5 finish in September, he also earned $1 million in bonuses. Earnhardt Jr., whose late father Dale won a record 10 races at Talladega, joins Buddy Baker as the only driver to win 3 in a row on the 2.5-mile oval. Miami hosted the Kart Series Grand Prix of America. Early in the race, champion-elect Cristiano Da Matta was down in 6th place. Da Matta needed to outscore Bruno Junqueira by 10 points to win the championship. On lap 19, Dixon and Tony Kanaan collide, with only Kanaan able to continue.
Over in defensive position, they made contact. Kanaan able to continue. I don't think Dixon will. What a huge blunder.
Paul Tracy was up among the leaders early and got as high as 3rd, but on lap 47 he was passed in turn 1 by Alex Tagliani. There's not much room for error between the unforgiving concrete walls that defined the temporary street circuit.
Paul Tracy and Alex Tagliani. Tracy was on cold tires, even as good a driver at time as they're doing when Tony Kanaan was leading earlier. He was doing in the 1 minute.
Junqueira showed his talent by fighting through the field and leading on the 49th lap from Da Matta. This time, Junqueira was fellow Brazilian Kanaan's turn 1 victim.
The 2 Brazilians who live here in Miami, Junqueira trying to stay alive in the championship. Kanaan started from pole position, was sent to the back after driving Junqueira's Target Ganassi.
7 laps from the end, Jimmy Vasser in the yellow car hits the brakes hard, causing Paul Tracy to spin. Tracy is then tagged by Michel Jourdain in the red and white car as Vasser vanishes. The 2 cars pin Junqueira against the wall, ending any hopes he had for the title. Tracy and Vasser are good friends, or they were, and both live in Las Vegas.
Pinned to the wall by the cars of Paul Tracy in green and Michel Jourdain Jr. in the red and white.
That left the race in the hands of Da Matta, and with 2 laps remaining, he would not give up the lead, which pleased his father, who was watching trackside. The rest was almost a formality as Da Matta crossed the finish line, won the race and the points title. The win is Da Matta's 7th of the season, and his victory earned him a $1 million bonus for the series championship.
2002 Kart FedEx champion.
The win is the 4th season points title for the racing team co-owned by veteran actor Paul Newman, himself an accomplished racing driver.
He says beautiful. Hey, Cristiano, you told me earlier today that these weren't your favorite socks, but that you'd worn them yesterday. His father leans in. You said these weren't your favorite socks.
Just feels very good. It's can't explain. I still didn't realize what it just happened, but I'm just happy that we won the race here and everything is done. We can enjoy the last 3 races.
What a season it's been for Cristiano Da Matta. Laurent Aiello has already won the 2002 DTM Drivers' title, but the team title and Drivers' runners-up spots were still in play, going into the 10th and final race at Hockenheim. The Frenchman led from pole with last year's champion Bernd Schneider by his side. Dutchman Christian Albers gave a foretaste of an incident-filled race. Schneider's AMG Mercedes teammate Jean Alesi suffered a spectacular crash with the race in its infancy as the bunch field came together out of turn 1. The French ex-Formula One driver escaped unharmed, but his race was over and he was headed for an early shower. Wishful braking by Germany's Martin Tomzig put him out of the race on the 6th of 22 laps and took compatriot Bernd Maylander with him. A lap later, Maylander retired as a result. Debris littered the track after the collision, bringing out the safety car. Most of the remaining drivers headed for the pits to take advantage of the slowed pace. Lead Aiello, Schneider and Matthias Ekstrom of Sweden were all looking to their pit crews to give them the upper hand. But Schneider's stop didn't go according to plan, and he lost 2 places to Ekstrom, who went second, and Timo Scheider, who took third. Weather conditions came to Schneider's rescue, and he regained second place as rain soaked the track, forcing drivers back to the pits for a change of tyres. When Aiello exited the pits, he found himself behind new race leader Ekstrom and second-placed Schneider. Schneider excelled in the difficult conditions and took the lead with a brave manoeuvre that almost took him and Ekstrom out of the race. In contrast, Aiello struggled on the wet surface and was passed by Timo Scheider before eventually finishing in 6th place. Schneider crossed the finishing line for only his 2nd DTM win of the season. The points for victory clinched 2nd place in the driver's title for Schneider and the team title for AMG Mercedes. Ekstrom finished in 2nd place, while Uwe Alsen took 3rd ahead of Scheider. Rockingham in England saw the climax of the 2002 ASCAR Series. Nicholas Manassian made a good start to lead the 16th and final race from Darren Turner. Further back, John Stewart was squeezed into turn 4 and touched Brandon Witt, who got loose and eventually spun his Star-Spangled Banger into the wall to bring out the yellow flags. At the restart, Manassian stormed into an impressive lead ahead of Rehfeldt, Turner and Plato, while Kelvin Burt made up places to take 5th spot. Rehfeldt also began to catch Manassian as all the leaders came in. Manassian almost collided with Proctor as the Yorkshireman came into the pits, but managed to keep the lead. The Frenchman looked to be in a championship-winning position, as his nearest rivals, Plato and Burt, were 4th and 5th. But Turner began to close on Manassian, breaking the lap record in his pursuit of the leader. Manassian was held up as he lapped a back marker, and Turner got a run up the inside to take the lead, and Rehfeldt soon followed, taking 2nd place. The rest of the race became a battle between Turner's Pontiac Grand Prix and Rehfeldt's Ford Taurus, with Manassian holding 3rd in his Chev Monte Carlo. Turner kept his head to take the flag a 1/4 of a second ahead of Rehfeldt, with Manassian crossing the line a second later for 3rd, with Plato 4th, 2 seconds adrift. So, although the Frenchman was only 3rd on the day, that was good enough to make him the 2002 overall ASCAR champion. He finished 37 points ahead of Burt, who was just 5 points in front of Jason Plato. It's no secret that most racing stars began their careers at places like this, karting tracks. And while this Italian circuit isn't held in as high a regard as Italy's main motor racing venues like Monza and Imola, it recently hosted the world's top racing driver. Choosing a totally unexpected vehicle, 5 times reigning Formula One champion Michael Schumacher visited the circuit to sharpen his karting skills ahead of the World Championship of Karting at the track at the end of October. Like his younger brother Ralf, the 33-year-old German started his racing career in the German Junior Kart Championship, where he won 2 consecutive titles in 1984 and 85. The elder Schumacher then stepped up to the full German Kart Championship and also participated in the European Kart Championship, where he learnt the basic skills that have served him well throughout his career. Despite graduating to Formula One in 1992 when he joined the Benetton team, the Ferrari driver is still fond of kart racing. Whenever the opportunity arises for him to take part in a kart race between Formula One races, he jumps at the chance. With the assistance of the Tony Kart racing team, Schumacher spent most of the day testing to refresh his karting skills and get a feel for the circuit. Schumacher and his Ferrari teammate Rubens Barrichello have dominated the current Formula One season, winning 15 of the year's 17 races, reaching the podium at every single race. Between them, they scored more points than all the other drivers put together in a crushing display of superiority. Looking at home on the tight track, Schumacher got to grips with his kart until rain halted the session, so he and his mechanics headed back to the pits. Despite his top draw credentials and a day job of driving the fastest racing cars in the world, Michael admits he still enjoys racing at the grassroots level.
I love the karting sport, and I have good friends here, so I like to enjoy myself and always come back to karting.
The Schumacher brothers have karting in their blood. Their parents operate a kart track in the family's hometown of Kerpen in Germany. Michael had to wait until 1983 for his German kart license, and in '84 he was German junior champion. In '85 he won the title again and came second in the Junior Worlds at Le Mans. In 1986 he came third in the German and European senior rankings, and the next year he won both titles. Young Ralph was just 2 years old when he made his karting debut. In 1991 he took the NRW Cup, the Gold Cup and the Junior Karting Championship, and the following year he went on to finish second in the German National Series. Formula One is set to undergo a number of sweeping changes now the 2002 season's over. The sports bosses are looking at ways of attracting new audiences and holding the attention of those fans who've grown bored of the current format. Among those changes are a new track in Bahrain in the Middle East. Great Britain's Prince Andrew and Bahrain's Crown Prince Sheikh Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa launched construction on the Bahrain racing circuit recently, a track that is set to host Formula One races in just 2 years' time. Work on the $150 million construction in Sakhir, 30 kilometres from Bahrain's capital of Manama, will start in November this year and is expected to be finished midway through next year. The plans to build the circuit were announced last month in Italy after Formula One boss Bernie Ecclestone signed a long-term agreement to bring one of the world's most watched sports to the Gulf Kingdom. The circuit, which will include a grandstand that can hold up to 70,000 spectators, is expected to begin hosting races in the 2004 Formula One season. There's speculation that Bahrain will be the finale for the Formula One season, a slot traditionally occupied by Japan. So, if there's a title showdown, it will take place at a time more friendly for European television audiences. Previously, the belief was that a European Grand Prix would be dropped to make way for Bahrain's involvement. But at a recent meeting, team bosses discussed the possibility of extending the season to 18 races.
Well, it is an historic day for motorsport because we've been hoping to have and talking about an event, Grand Prix, in one of the countries where there's the desert in the background for at least 20 years, and now finally we're going to have one. And that particular spot they've chosen, I think, is ideal. I think it'll be one of the best circuits we have.
Well, I think as obviously the Middle East has provided a lot of our power source over the last few years for vehicles, and I think it would be great to have another venue on the calendar.
First of all, I don't know why we are not there already. I mean, this is certainly a part of the world which, especially for television, is very good because of time changes and other things. To travel, it's not too far. So to get everybody there and back, I think is a simple, straightforward thing, and I guess the money is there available to build a proper circuit and make a real good race out of it.
We need to expand our modern world, let's put it this way. So I'm very happy. I think it's good for Formula One.
The proposed area of Sakhir is currently desert land, but a computer simulation of the circuit promises radical alterations to the area and a boost for the Bahrain economy. As well as hosting prestigious Formula One Grand Prix, officials expect the Bahrain racing circuit to be used as a venue for drag racing, karting and motorcycling events. It'll be the first circuit in the Middle East to reach international standards and could be an invaluable testing ground for Formula One teams who wish to try out their technology in high-temperature conditions. The government of Bahrain has completed a bidding process for the construction and operation of a huge leisure complex at Al Jazeera Beach, on the southwest coast of the island and near the planned circuit. Bahrain wants to increase the number of visitors to the country using Al Jazeera Beach as the magnet. Plans include a fun park and commercial units which the government hope will be used by automobile industry, as the track will provide all-year warm weather testing facilities and a race driving school. Quick, think of a range of large, front-engined, rear-wheel drive cars with either V8 or supercharged 6s, not built in the US or Europe. You give up? Holden is the Australian arm of General Motors, and down under, they build the Commodore range as a 4-door saloon, 5-door wagon, or as a pickup. And not being content with regular looks and horsepower, Holden Special Vehicles, HSV, part owned by racing guru Tom Walkinshaw, builds modified V8 versions. The basic Club Sport comes with a 5.7-litre V8 putting out 260 kilowatts and sells in Australia for under $30,000 US. The slightly more developed Club Sport R8, here driven by multiple Australian supercar champion Mark Skaife, gets 4-piston brake calipers squeezing monster cross-drilled rotors. The cars come with 4-speed automatic or 6-speed manual transmissions, and the manuals get an audible shift light on the dash. HSVs also feature digressive rate shock absorbers, which work in reverse of progressive rate dampers by becoming more compliant as piston speeds rise. The new suspension is said to provide sharper turn-in response and better high-speed ride quality. Australians will claim that the pickup, or ute, short for utility, is an Australian invention, so it's no wonder that the homegrown models feature a pickup variant. The HSV's take on the ute is called Maloo and gets a hard tonneau cover. While it may be used for work, most seem to think of it more as a 2-door sports car with a very big boot. The Senator's signature is for the executive who likes a bit of go with his show. Weighing 1,744 kilos, it's a big car in every respect, but it still zooms to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.6 seconds and 400 meters in 13.8. In line with his luxury status, the Senator adds light shale leather trim with a brushed alloy dash surround and 8-way power-adjustable driver's seat, but still sells, at home, for under 40,000 American dollars. Top of the tree is the GTS, which is even faster thanks to performance modifications to the Chev multi-valve V8. The 1,710 kilogram GTS is good for a 5.1 second 0 to 100 sprint and a 400 meter pass in 13.3 seconds. GTS comes in both manual and auto form and gets an uprated 6-piston AP racing brake package, but the engine's the reason you'd buy a GTS. The good news is that HSV will step up exports, including to the Middle East and Europe. Team KR, owned by Kenny Roberts Sr., has signed a 2-year agreement with Malaysia's Proton and Britain's Lotus Engineering. 3-time world champion Roberts will design, produce and race a V5 4-stroke in MotoGP next season. The agreement will combine the expertise and capabilities of the collaborators to create a top-level machine able to challenge at the highest levels of the sport. Roberts, who's worked with Proton since 1997, signed the contract with Proton's CEO Tengku Arif and Lotus Engineering's Dave Tate at a conference in Shah Alam. After unveiling the new V5 engine, which is designed to produce around 220 horsepower, Roberts also confirmed that Jeremy McWilliams and Nobby Aoki would ride the new machine next year, after being so successful with a 2-stroke this season, and that Bridgestone would continue to supply the team with tyres. The former champ, whose son Kenny Jr. won the title in 2000, explained the next steps.
Well, right now, the final machining of casting parts are being done, obviously, in England. That's all being assembled every day. So when that's done, I would say by the end of the month, beginning of November, we will have it, hopefully, middle of December, have it running on a dyno. And it has to run probably a week or two of various, there's a lot of things that you have to run through the motors when it's just new. When that's all done, the frame is practically done as we speak. So we'll all be put together, I would say by mid-December should be on a racetrack.
Meanwhile, Yamaha Tech 3 riders Olivier Jacques of France and Japan's Shinja Nakano continue the development of their M1 bikes at the Shah Alam track. Both riders took it easy because track conditions were not perfect, and both were aware that they only have one machine apiece for the rest of the year. This is the first time I've ever ridden a racing 4-stroke, and the most surprising thing for me was how easy it was, said Jacques. The way the power just keeps coming in is certainly impressive, and it slides a bit more than the 2-stroke, but apart from that, there were no big surprises. While in Malaysia recently, MotoGP riders had the chance to get to grips with one another on the kart track, built within the extensive facilities at Sepang. Valentino Rossi, Max Biaggi, Carlos Checa, Kenny Roberts, Alex Barros, Norick Abe and Regis Laconi were some of the big names who took part in a 10-lap race, but the star was 250cc Australian teenager Casey Stoner. Stoner set pole but started at the back of the reversed grid, and despite some rough tactics, stormed his way through the field, sending Rossi into the gravel before hunting down runaway leader Abe. World champ Valentino Rossi leads fellow Italian arch-rival Max Biaggi. Within a couple of laps, Stoner passed Abe and went on to take the checkered flag by a clear margin. World Motorsport champion Australian Andrew Pitt made his MotoGP debut with a new Kawasaki, standing in for the injured Akira Yanagawa for the rest of the 2002 season. In the race, the third from last of the season, Alex Barros and Max Biaggi, two riders competing for the runner-up spot behind world champ Rossi, occupied first and second places on the grid. Both made a clean start and held their positions ahead of the pack, but Rossi suffered some uncharacteristic lapses of concentration. The Brazilian Barros maintained his lead over Biaggi until the 12th lap, when the Italian moved ahead of the Honda to take the lead on his Yamaha. An unusual line almost sees him lose the lead again, but he stays ahead. Barros was struggling too, having lost second to Okawa and then going down to Rossi on the 14th lap. The world champion's late charge ensured some nervous backward glances from his compatriot Biaggi out in front. Rossi then set about hunting down his Honda teammate Toru Okawa for second place. In the end though, Biaggi held off Rossi's challenge to take a hard-earned victory. Barros, having dispensed with Okawa, came home in third. Biaggi's win was the 600th Grand Prix victory by an Italian rider in the history of the World Motorcycle Championship, and the 25 points saw him pass Okawa in the battle for second place in the title, going 7 points ahead.
I start not so bad from my second position. I keep the position turn one, and so Barros was very fast. He was pushing hard, and I tried to follow him. Sometimes I make a mistake. Sometimes I can be in his slipstream, but the bike was working not so bad, and you know, I think this is a very good result. You know, I saw the possibility for make 25 points, and I work a lot for that, but I think I deserve at the end.
A shock exit by title leader Marco Melandri on the first lap of the 250 race allowed Fonzi Nieto to cruise to his fourth victory of the season and close the gap to 27 points. Melandri would have claimed the title by finishing ahead of Nieto. In the 125 race, Frenchman Arnaud Vincent moved closer to the title with a fifth win, but amid controversy. An official waved the flag a lap early, and stewards decided to rule out the final lap. Lucio Cecchinello went up to second, and more importantly for the title, reigning champion Manuel Poggiali claimed fourth place and 13 points. We'll end this week on that controversial note, but so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.